But Carney says Canada isn't pursuing a free trade deal with China and is simply rectifying some issues with Beijing. So, Griff, you're a smart guy. Explain to us, what is Carney doing here? What's his end goal with all this?
I have no idea, but you know, the picture you showed just in the intro, remember that was Carney and Trump at the White House at the beginning of last year, and they seem to love each other. So I'm going to date myself with this Canadian reference, but let's hope this is just Bob and Doug McKenzie steamrolling each other in Strange Brew, and they're going to eventually work it out. Because at the end of the day, what in the world Carney was doing going to Davos, talking about the middle powers have to band together, because if not, we're on the menu, in this rupture in the old Western order of the world makes no sense. Now, on the one hand, Carney perhaps maybe trying to position himself with some sort of leverage or strength going into the fact that they're going to renegotiate, I believe, the USMCA. But really drawing the ire of President Trump ahead of that may not be the best path to do it.
I could structure this entire segment around references to Strange Brew, but I'm not going to do that for the sake of the audience. I love that movie. Jackie, Carney seems to be getting tough with President Trump. He thinks China's a good way to do that. Do you think the Canadian people want to see their prime minister getting cozy with Xi Jinping? Like, is that what Canada wanted when they said, let's stand up to the United States?
I don't think that's what they want. I actually think people in every nation, despite what we're seeing from some Americans now who want to see America fail, generally overall, people that live in a place want to see that place prosper and without conflict. What I think is happening here is, do you remember, I think it was in the 90s, Michael Jordan, and they did that song, I Want to Be Like Mike.
Yes,
remember that?
love that.
And it went around and it went from little kids to groups of people. Everybody wanted to be like Michael Jordan because he was the best at what he did. This is Carney trying to be like Trump. Everybody sees how he negotiates, and they put their own spin and interpretation on what they think the art of the deal is. I mean, somebody like Carney really doesn't get it because it's just not in his DNA. But to me, this is him trying to act tough and oppose Trump to kind of, the way Trump did with the tariffs, right? He started here, but we ended up here. So he's acting like he's going to play this tough guy. He's coming at him. He's going to fight him with China. The funny part is that Trump kind of laughs all of this off because he understands what the realities are. You want to go down the road and do business with China, it might not be tomorrow, but at some point you're going to get bit in the backside by it. And Trump also knows that he's got the leverage to get Canada. I mean, they've got to cooperate. They've got to come to terms with the United States on a deal. So whether it's Macron or Carney and they're trying to play tough guys, it's just you can't do that with this president. I appreciate the trying, but supporting actor, best supporting actor.
Best supporting actor. You're giving him a nomination for best supporting actor. Maybe he'd be happy with that. So, Dagan, Carney and China, okay, and President Trump. First reaction to that whole thing was, well, good for Carney for trying to do something with China. That's what you should do. His second reaction was, I'm going to throw 100% tariffs on you if you do a deal with them. So in between reaction 1 and 2, maybe it was Greenland that got in the mix there and the president's thinking about Golden Dome. But it does seem like President Trump took a different tact with our neighbor to the north. Do you make anything of that?
President Trump's always looking, I would say 8 steps ahead. No, it's more like 80. So I don't know where the president is going with this, but Carney can just go ahead with himself.
Right.
China will come and hollow out your country.
Eat your lunch.
It will eat you alive, literally. China will lock you into a path that guarantees second-class status for Canada. Not only will it, steal your manufacturing capabilities and technology, that's predictable, but Canada is heavily resource dependent, selling oil, fossil fuels, timber. China will buy all of that. You will become Canada a commodity. And then if China doesn't get the price it likes, it will go somewhere else for a better deal, and then you are completely screwed. And also, and I've mentioned this before, this is called the Dutch disease, where a country develops an unhealthy dependence on natural resource exports to the detriment of other sectors of what else would, because China is such a good customer for your natural resources that everything else kind of falls by the wayside, and you become some sort of Brazil where you're committed to natural resource extraction as your only source of earnings. And if you're not careful, if you're run by some clown like Carney, that's what'll happen to you.
Taylor, it's a big deal whenever there's problems between Canada and the U.S. because there's so much back and forth that happens there. Do you wish 2026 was the year that Canada and the U.S. could finally come together and say, you know what, let's get on the same page because big things are happening and we're neighbors and we have to? Or is the fight still worth it here?
You know, that's a good question. I think we'd always want for us to unite against China. And I agree with Dagan's comments. Good luck doing a deal with China. They'll come in and eat you alive. It would be nice to pull Canada into the U.S. But you know what, Brian? America's going to be just fine without Canada. If there's some rocky trade relations, we're going to be fine. I highlighted that we're looking at north of 5% GDP. Vanguard was estimating Canada in 2026 looking at 1.6% real GDP growth for the year. Good luck. That is subpar, sub 2% GDP growth for the year. The U.S. is booming. I think that you're lucky to be on board here in a more innovative, a dynamic economy. Here's something else that was interesting. When we've talked often about the consumer or the K-shapes. So they've done some studies, the CIBC Bank, about the K-shaped economy in Canada. And they said it's converging, it's less divergent than the K-shaped economy in the US. Ooh, isn't that better? No, it's not, because guess what? The wealthy in Canada aren't as wealthy as the wealthy in America. So our wealthy, the top part of that K, are spending and propping up in many ways the economy. The wealthy in Canada, they can't do that. They don't have the wealth that Americans can. And their bottom K is converging because the bottom K is dipping into savings to propel their spending. So I think on the surface, you can be like, ooh, we're in a fight with Canada. You dig into the numbers, America's going to be just fine. We have a super dynamic economy.
Okay, so let me raise something. You brought up the movie Strange Brew earlier, and this is actually one of President Trump's big concerns about this actually relates to the plot of that movie. And the plot of that movie, remember, the brewmaster wanted to take over the brewery because he wanted to control people's minds through the beer, okay? President Trump says, I don't want China in Canada because I don't want Canada to use our northern border as a means for infiltrating our economy, right? Or creating a national security threat. So it's kind of the same thing. It strikes me, Griff, I don't know, let me ask you this. Is Mark Carney the kind of guy who's full of himself just enough that he could actually let that kind of dynamic happen because he's trying to spite Trump by letting China in his front door?
It's such a great question, Brian, because that would suggest that Carney may have been afflicted with Trump derangement syndrome, which we joked about a while back, but we have seen so many people actually do dumb things, shooting yourself in the foot to make no point that Trump derangement syndrome is real. But, I do want to come back because you touched on it, but I don't think you can overstate it. And that is the Golden Dome is very much a part of it. And you wonder where Carney understands that, because you have Greenland and obviously we've got Alaska. Canada's in the middle. What is Canada doing? Spending nothing on defense. What is Canada's, military readiness? It's nothing. They're decades behind. They need to rebuild. And so on the one hand, Carney should be looking at investment and opportunities, but we can't do Golden Dome without Canada. But that doesn't give him leverage. It gives him an opportunity for investment because we're going to have to bring the defense infrastructure in Canada way up to do this. So at the end of the day, hard to say where his head is, but if he's got TDS, it's going to be a real rude awakening.
Kevin O'Leary has made the point that NORAD, which is our big collaboration with Canada, it needs tons and tons of upgrade. And these guys got to get on the same page, if for no other reason than that, because Greenland and Alaska don't do you a lot of good if Canada's a huge vulnerability.
Right.
Okay,